friends, welcome back to my channel. We're here today with a Friday Reads update. I just wanted to let you know what I've been reading in the last 7 days or so. I love Friday Reads. Sean the Book Maniac does Friday Reads almost religiously, almost every week. Britta Bowler has been doing Friday Reads as well. She does one almost every week. She didn't post one last week because she wasn't feeling well. Hi Britta, I hope you're feeling better. And Brian from Bookish posts his update on Saturday. He makes this Saturday hodgepodge. And those are some of the people who are most consistent with their Friday reads. Doris does it sometimes, Heidi does it sometimes, but they post lots of other videos as well. Sean is the person who posts the Friday reads almost every week. And we featured Sean's bookshelf on Vlogmas yesterday. So go check out Sean if you haven't already. Go check out all the other people that I just mentioned if you haven't already. I'll link them down below, and would love if you go check out some other channels as well. If you like my content, if you like my videos, you love them. They're a lot more consistent with their videos. They're a lot better at this thing than I am. But I want to keep you updated on what I've been reading because, you know, at the end of December, there's just so much going on. So even if I don't do Friday reads in other months, I think December is really the time to do it because who knows when in January I'll be able to make a wrap up of all the books that I read in the month. So it's better to just kind of keep track as the month goes on. I'm rambling, I know. I had a great reading week. Last weekend was Doris's usual mid-month book bash, but she wanted a Vlogmas style readathon this month. And I tried to participate, but there was just so much else going on. So I just knew that I was supposed to read a lot for mid-month book bash, and so I did, but I didn't vlog or anything. So I'll tell you about the books that I've been reading because that's where we're here, right? So last Sunday, I think it was. Yeah, last Sunday, we went to visit my mother-in-law, my husband's mother. She doesn't live that far away. We go there all the time. But last weekend, we were there for a lot longer because my husband was doing some other things. And so we were there for a while, and I decided I was going to just look around, browse the bookshelves. And I found some books from my husband's childhood, books that he had left there, books that everybody read, I guess, but they were just like kind of hanging around. They still are. So if you watch my Vlogmas video, I think it was the video that I posted on Sunday, I shared some of the books that I found on their bookshelf, and I did a Vlogmas book list challenge with those, but I also sat there and read a couple of books, or at least started. I read one thing in its entirety while I was there, and I brought a couple of books home with me. So the first book that I finished since last Friday Reads was a small abridged version of stories from Sherlock Holmes, Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. I've never read the collection. It's over there somewhere. Oh, I should show it to you. So I started moving. So my husband has all these pictures in front of his books, pictures from trips and stuff. I started moving them so I could see what books he has there so I can take them. He has this big collection of Sherlock Holmes stories, and I want to read it. Let me show you for context. Yeah, so this is the complete collection of Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, so I didn't read this in a day. This is almost 1,100 pages. The version that I read was about 50 pages or so. It was maybe 4 or 5 stories. Condensed, I'm sure, for a young reader as a little bit of an introduction to detective style and sleuthing, and just how you can use your senses to be aware of what's happening, and to see sometimes what other people miss just because you're kind of looking out for things. So I loved it. I loved I loved it. The version that I wrote was in I keep saying wrote. If only I wrote Sherlock Holmes, right? The version that I read was illustrated, so there were also full color pictures. So 50 pages of 50-page book, but the text is maybe about 30 something pages. So I read that. So that's the first thing that I read and finished since this week started. I also brought home this book. I also brought home this book again from my husband's childhood, Sideways Stories from Wayside School by Louis Sachar. This book was on Rupi Kaur's bookshelf. We featured that in Vlogmas. We featured one of we featured that in Vlogmas one day last week, I think, maybe last Friday, where I had this footage from when I visited the bookstore and they were promoting her book and they showed some of the books that she said she really enjoyed, and this was one of them. And this is a children's book. It's written for maybe that 7 to 8-year-old range, or is it 7 to 10? I don't remember, that elementary school reader. But this was fun. This was fun reading. I don't read a lot of middle grade. I don't read a lot of young readers' books, but whenever I do, I enjoy them. And this was great. It's about a school that's built the wrong way. Instead of it being built horizontally, they build vertically. So what should have been 30 classrooms side by side are 30 classrooms stacked on top of each other. So the school itself is wayside up. And so everything that's happened, everything that happens here is crazy mixed up, and it's just fantastic how things happen. So it's just fun, and it has illustrations, these pencil line drawings, and they're great. Like the stories start with a teacher who is the opposite of what a teacher should be, and then something happens and they get rid of her, and then another teacher comes in and she's supposed to be great, but she's as zany as you could imagine. She has this thing that she does when the kids are misbehaving. She writes her name on the board. So she has this heading called discipline, and the first time you misbehave and she catches you, she writes your name there. The second time she catches you, she puts a check mark next to your name. And the third time she catches you, you're going home on the bus with the kindergartners at 12 o'clock. So school in this book ends at 2. And so if you get in trouble, you get to leave by 12 o'clock. But that's not a good thing for everyone. So there's this kid who gets in trouble every day, and he keeps trying to not get in trouble because he wants to know what happens between 12 and 2 every day. So like, it's fun. This book is so fun. The individual stories don't always get resolved in the 3 or 4 pages of each chapter, but it all comes together to make this really delightful story. So if you have gotten a chance to read Sideways Stories from Wayside School by Louis Sachar, check it out. It's short. You read this in an hour or two. It's 123 pages for middle grade or younger readers. Definitely read that. So yeah, so you could see where my reading was going, right? So then I started reading Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie last week, and I actually finished it this week. So yeah, more children's book. Peter Pan is one of those stories that you think you know, but unless you've actually read the novel, there are details about it, and there are themes that are covered in the writing that I know I wasn't familiar with. You know, Peter Pan is the story of the boy who doesn't grow up, or at least doesn't want to. So there's a lot of make-believe and a lot of pretense in this book, and it's kind of forcing you to question, is he really not growing up, or is he just pretending? So there are these 3 children. They're siblings. There's a girl named Wendy and her 2 younger brothers, and they're children. They're indulging their childlike fantasies where they have dreams, and what happens in dreamland, occasionally spills over into real life. And so they talk about things that they dream about, and so on. But what's interesting how the book starts is that this girl, Wendy, she's talking about things that she's dreaming or was dreaming. And it reminds her mother of when she was a child and how she had some of the same dreams. And so the mother knows that something is going to happen with her daughter, but she can't prevent it. So it's a little bit of that generational curse, kind of generational tendencies. You could see your children kind of going down the same path that you did, but do you want to stop them? Can you stop them even if you want to? That kind of thing. So eventually Peter Pan comes and whisks these three children away to Neverland, and things are things are a little topsy-turvy on Neverland as well. A lot of really dark themes, a lot of really dark tendencies are covered in this narrative. So you get the fairy Tinkerbell who accompanies Peter Pan, but Tinkerbell likes Peter Pan in some way, or she feels jealous over him, and so she's resentful of the relationship that Peter Pan and Wendy may have, and so she tries to get Wendy killed. Like, this is a children's book, right? Then there's Captain Hook and the pirates, and there's an ongoing feud where Peter Pan caused some really horrible thing to happen to Captain Hook, and now Captain Hook has said that he's going to get revenge, and all the children, all the other inhabitants of Neverland, if they all go in collateral damage, it's fine. Like, what? So yeah, this is a really dark story, and I don't want to spoil the rest of the story for you. I don't know if you spoil a 200-year-old story, but I don't know if you spoil a story that's been around for so long. But yeah, read the story. If you haven't yet read it, read it. Come back, tell me what you think about Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie, and whether this is really fantasy appropriate for children or not. But it is, it's one of those stories that children, when they read in their innocence, they'll see things not, with my crazy skewed mind, crazy mixed up mind. So there's something for the children in the story, but there's also something for the adults to take away. So that was really cool. So yeah, I read that. And then aside from that, I read this book, The Blue Zones Challenge, a 4-week plan for a longer, better life by Dan Buettner. This is Dan Buettner. How did it go? So Dan Buettner works with National Geographic, and he became interested in these people around the world who live to be older, centenarians or close to it. So he got interested when he found out that there were zones across the world where people who lived in those zones were a lot more likely to reach 100 years old. And so he started studying these people in these areas, finding out a little bit about their lifestyle, what they eat, what they do, what they don't do, what they don't eat, their daily habits, and how their lives are different from people who live in places where the life expectancy is a lot lower. And so he has been writing about the blue zones for a while now. I read, National Geographic sent me a cookbook that showed some of the meals that people in these zones eat. And that was maybe sometime last year. So he's now released this companion, which is more of a tracker, a workbook, how to implement the Blue Zones teachings, the Blue Zones lessons in your life. So not just reading about it and being inspired by it and saying, man, I should do that. Actually, what are some of the step-by-step things that you could do to start living that way? And so I read this. I wrote a review about it on my blog. So I didn't read the whole thing because, like I said, it is a challenge. There are meals in here. There's a meal planning section, but there's also a lot of tracking that you do because it's a workbook. So I read the introduction, and I read it's not called introduction. So I read the introduction, but I also read the guideline part of it. And so, yeah. So these are the Blue Zones books. This is Blue Zone's Kitchen. I have that. Then he also has a book called Blue Zone's 9 Lessons for Living Longer, the Blue Zone's Solution, Eating and Living Like the World's Healthiest People, Blue Zones of Happiness, and Thrive, Finding Happiness the Blue Zones Way. So I have the Blue Zones Kitchen, which is the big cookbook, and then this one. And so I read it. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about it because I'm marking it on my Goodreads. Because listen, I haven't been marking all the books that I read for publishers on my Goodreads, but starting now, I'm marking everything because Goodreads, I'm way behind in my reading for the year. So aside from that, I also read The Bride Test by Helen Huang, which was a novel, the only real full-length novel that I read this week. But that was great. I read that in a day. So I previously read The Kiss Quotient last year or the year before, and I didn't like it. But I wanted to give Helen Huang another try because I think she is autistic herself, and she writes about characters who are autistic, but she writes romance novels. So she's writing about people who have autism or Asperger's or any, they're on the autistic spectrum in some way, but just about how they're living their regular lives and how the people who love them make adjustments so that their relationship can be as full as any other relationships. I like that. So I gave her another try, and The Bride Test I thought was much better. There's some graphic adult escapades in these books, so be warned if you're going to read Helen Huang. But I enjoyed the story. This one followed the guy is the person who is autistic, and his mother. So they're Vietnamese, and his mother has gotten tired of him being single, so she's decided to find him a wife. So she goes to Vietnam and she's interviewing women. And so I guess because they're American and they have money, it's never really disclosed how much money they have, but it seems like they're wealthy. And there are all these women, all these young women who are auditioning for the role of this guy's wife. And she doesn't like any of them. And eventually she goes into the bathroom and she likes the lady who's the bathroom attendant. And she convinces her to come back to America with her and meet her son and spend the summer and decide whether or not she wants to pursue a relationship, whether she wants to marry him. And it's really cool because the author explores a lot of that immigrant life from lots of different perspectives. This woman, she decides to take this opportunity to come to the United States. And maybe she's pursuing love, but if that doesn't work out, what are the other things that she could do? And I like that. I like that this young woman has gumption. She isn't, she's not a gold digger. Number one, she doesn't know that the family is wealthy. She knows that they have some money, but she doesn't know the extent of their wealth. And I like that. I like how Helen Huang, she moved the plot. The main character, the young woman, her name is Mai. She changes her name when she comes to the United States to Esme, but I like Mai. And she's just very real, very relatable. I like her, but I also like the male main character. He's fun. He's fun. He's funny, and he's fun. So that was a prompt. I read that book. I wanted to choose this book to respond to one of the prompts from Reading Women, where you had to read a book by author who has a mental illness, I think. So yeah, I read that. So those are the books that I read this week, and I had a fantastic time reading. I started reading The Christmas Carol, or A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I am maybe about halfway through that. I also started a buddy read, kind of, Eric Larson's Dead Wake. I'm reading this with Heidi and Doris. And I'm not sure where those ladies are because I'm a little bit behind on watching their videos. but we were supposed to check in after the first part, and I think Doris checked in, but I think she checked in before she finished the first part. So I don't know. I'm behind, but I'll catch up. So that's what I'm reading right now. I'm also trying to finish like a lot of books that were just lingering around this year. Books that I started and read maybe halfway and didn't finish. So I want to try to get all of those read so I can mark them on my Goodreads, because Goodreads says I am behind on my reading goal. And we have got to just get things together. So yeah, aside from that, I am having a wonderful time working, cleaning, getting ready for my family to visit for Christmas. So I'm a little tired. If you see that on me, I'm a little tired. But yeah, I'm having a great time reading and just so excited to share this part of my reading life, my reading journey with you. I hope you'll come back. We'll be back later with a Vlogmas video. And I can't tell you now what the challenge is going to be later, but I'm also going to be starting a series. I'm incorporating a series in Vlogmas. So a series in a series. And that series is probably going to run for a week or so. So stay tuned for more. But for now, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. Let's chat in the comments. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.